Hiya guys, Charles here, welcome back to my channel. This video is a follow-up video to the pentatonic phrasing video that I talked about a few weeks ago, which you can see up here. The secret revealed in that video was this idea of the hammer-on from nowhere, and we're going to see today how that applies to 3-note per string scales. Now for a full explanation of this hammer-on from nowhere concept, please do check the first video, but let's quickly recap the main points. So the first main benefit to practicing hammer-ons from nowhere is a technical one. It strengthens your first finger. The hammer-on from nowhere concept is that we allow the fretting hand finger to use its strength to start the note. We discussed how as you move through the strings from thickest to thinnest, it gets quite a bit harder to start that note. And I think I gave the example of like a gymnast landing on a beam. You've got a far bigger target on the thicker strings than you do on the thin strings. So it really strengthens up that first finger if you allow it to do all the work rather than relying on the plectrum. The second benefit to working on the hammer-on from nowhere concept is that it's a difficult thing to do coordination-wise. We're so used to landing on a new string and picking it that it's a really difficult habit to unlearn. So because we can't do it, we want to make sure that we can do it. And in doing so, we're developing our control and we're developing our coordination between the two hands. And the third reason is the reason I started practicing this concept in the first place. We try and get the instrument out of our way. Now what I mean by that is we look for things that the instrument tries to get us to do, and we try and find alternative paths around it. When we pick a string that has a very distinctive character, and in terms of our musical phrasing and our musical concept, we might not want that at that moment in the phrase. Therefore, we need to have a few alternatives available to us. Thinking more musically and less technically can really give your brain the chance to come up with some creative workarounds for things that we just take as granted on the instrument. So for me, I'm really trying to work on trying to get my plectrum out of the equation on a new string. So just because the guitar wants us to pick a new string and have that click at the start of the note doesn't mean we actually have to do that. We should have practiced some alternatives so that we have a few workarounds where we feel they are necessary. To summarise, we want to play the guitar the way we want to play the guitar, not the way the guitar wants us to play it. So let's look at some different ways to phrase the 3-note per string major scale. This is a scale that you're all probably familiar with, looks like this. Now as this scale has 3 notes per string, let's start by trying to phrase it in groups of 3. The difficulty here is when we get to the very top string, on that turnaround, we've actually got 5 notes on the top string, not 3, which means that that 6th note, so to speak, is on the new B string, which means we have to have a hammer-on from nowhere to start the descending passage back down onto that B string, which is really tricky. Let's try phrasing this now in groups of 2. Now this is challenging because as we move down the guitar, we're going to have to start some of those new strings on a hammer from nowhere. For example, straight away we have pick, hammer, pick, hammer on that A string. And remember, we want to try and get all of these notes as even as possible. I'm certainly not managing to achieve that yet, although the evenness over the last 3 or 4 weeks that I've been practicing this has improved drastically, so I've no doubt it will for you as well. And I'm feeling confident that given another month or 2, I'll have these in a state where I feel quite a bit more controlled over them. Next, let's move on to groups of 4. Now this is starting to get more difficult as the momentum that the plectrum applies to the string dies down over more notes. So here we're trying to get through 4 notes without picking. That means starting new strings with hammer-ons from nowhere, pretty much in every string in this instance, and it gets increasingly more difficult as the strings get thinner to keep the sustain going through each 4-note group. finally, to round it off, let's look at groups of 5 and groups of 6. They share the same challenges as the previous examples, but over even more extended note group lengths. Now, as I always say, remember that what happens in the practice room stays in the practice room. This is not something you want to be considering when you're playing live. It is simply a practice exercise that challenges different areas of your playing depending on which specific area of focus you're interested in. So have a go at these, and hopefully, like me, you'll find that over the course of a few weeks, these really do have a knock-on impact in your playing, and I feel a lot more control over the string changes and my legato playing in general. If you appreciate this video, please do give it a like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell. And as always, I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.
Roll up, let me embed a story you'll never forget. A drip, drip, you're drowning in debt now. You can't buy your way out.